All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
You didn't think we were missing a full Saturday slate of bowl games, did you? What's going on, everybody? My name's Bill. Put a dollar in front of it. You'll find me on Discord and Twitter. Welcome to the College Football Breakdown Show. Bowl season here at Ship It Nation, and we're going to get right into the football today. Obviously, you know to hit that like button. Obviously, you know we have the best content. You can get 5 days of Ship It Nation right now for $19 at shipitnation.com. But we're here to talk college football bowl season. Let's get greasy. Penn State and Clemson to kick things off in the Pinstripe Bowl. Hooray, a baseball field for a football game. One thing I will say about these baseball stadium games, the conditions typically are not great. So something to keep in mind for these games being played on a baseball field. Penn State, a lot of potential opt-outs here. Some guys like Nick Singleton and some defensive guys already doing so, including a defensive captain. Luckily, this game is early, so hopefully we'll get some clarity before kickoff. But Terry Smith already said that there could be some starters who get limited reps too. And there's a mass exodus within the coaching staff. So it just a lot of variables at play here that make Penn State a little bit dicey, but we're going to go through as if, you know, some of these guys are going to play. Ethan Grunkemeyer at 7,300. That's honestly probably still a little bit too expensive for this matchup, especially if he's going to be missing some weapons in the O-lineman. And honestly, Clemson's defense was mostly okay this year outside of a couple lapses against a healthy Syracuse team and Duke and SMU. Their defense played pretty well. So Grunkemeyer is just a tough click at 7,300. There's just on this slate as a whole, I think there's better quarterback plays, but you're probably going to get him at low ownership. In the running back room, I already said Nick Singleton's out. If Katron Allen is going to go and get a majority of work, obviously he's a steal at 7,700. There's no arguing that. But if he doesn't go, or he's one of the guys getting limited reps, who do you even go to? Cam Wallace hasn't taken an offensive snap since week 3. Corey Smith hasn't taken an offensive snap since week 1. Now, these guys have both been involved on special teams, so bowl season can get crazy. Maybe we see these guys get extended run. But as it sits right now, if we get word that Katron Allen is going to play, there's still some risk with that limited reps, but he's obviously in a great spot here with the talent he has. In the wide receiver room, Trevor Pena is another guy on opt-out watch, but has some upside if he's going to go. But I really do think these Penn State guys have a lot more limited upside with Grunkemeyer quarterback. We've talked about it ever since Drew Aller went down. I don't think it changes here. And we don't know who's going to be just on the sideline after the fourth quarter. So a lot of things you have to keep in mind with this Penn State side. On the Clemson side, it's a little more clear. They have 27 opt-outs due to either personal choice or injury. We do know who some of them are. Unsure who the others are. Cade Klubnik was on the short list of guys who might opt out, but it sounds like he's going to go. And he said basically it's for the love of the game. Even at 8,400, if he's going to be full go, I don't mind him here. There is a lot of value on the slate, and so it's not as difficult to get to 8,400 for your quarterback. Adam Randall also been practicing, so at 6,100, if we're expecting him to go, that's a great price for him. He's involved in the passing game as well as the run game. We've seen it all year long. If they're going to go, then Adam Randall's a great play. Keith Adams is transferring, and we're not expecting him, so that leaves Gideon Davison as the running back too. 4,200, bowl games, extended run for some of these other guys that haven't maybe seen as much time this year. Maybe get a little crazy with some Gideon Davidson, and then easy, you'll probably wrap up the rest of the running back usage. The wide receiver room, just play them all, right? Like, look at this. TJ Moore, likely wide receiver 1 with no Williams and no Wesco, 4,800. Wide receivers 2 and 3, Tristan Smith and Tyler Brown, both sub 4K, both likely to start. If they have their quarterback, which we're expecting, these guys might be the value of the slate at wide receiver. And then you can look at Christian Bentancur too. Olsen Pat Henry's injured. Ian Shiflin has already opted out to pursue basketball. So definitely some solid options on the Clemson side. And, 25, 26 points isn't necessarily an implied team total that we get too crazy about. But as we go through this slate, you're going to see that's one of the higher ones on the slate. So if we're going off a point total for a team and opportunity, there's a lot here on the Clemson side to love. I don't mind stacking these wide receivers with Klubnik. And again, the Penn State side is a little bit riskier with the lack of news we're getting. UConn at Army. Another baseball. Hooray. The Fenway Bowl. More baseball field games. We're going to start at wide receiver for the Huskies because Skylar Bell is not only a top receiver for the Huskies, he's also committed to playing in this bowl game and trying to rally the troops, no pun intended, they're playing Army. But he's trying to convince everyone else on the team, whether they're in the transfer portal or not, to suit up for this game because he said just talking a lot about the brotherhood, the team aspect of this. He wants everybody to play. We need more Skylar Bells in college football. We want everybody out there for these bowl games. Obviously, from a DFS perspective, it makes it a little bit more clear. I totally understand why some of these guys that are on their way out might not want to play in a meaningless bowl game, but, Skylar Bell's trying to rally everybody. And, he might be, even at 7,900, he might be the most playable guy on this team. A 17-point team total is not something we get too excited about. But Bell's been an absolute monster all season. The one thing that might hold him back a little bit is we already know Fignano's not going to play. So that leaves Nick Evers to start 6,600. I mean, if he's going to go 6,600 is nice when you have a wide receiver that can help him get to the finish line. But there's also a chance he's on his way out too. We haven't gotten any word, but they would be on quarterback 4 if Evers can't go. So again, not much love on a 17-point team total. And we don't know who's going to play running back. Everyone is in the portal. Edwards, Rosa, Brown. They're all in the transfer portal. All of these guys carry risk. Cam Edwards says he's going to play. So that's something we can at least look at a little bit. But I don't know how many people, again, you're playing with a 17-point team total. On the Army side, I don't imagine we'll get too many opt-outs because it's Army. Cade Hellum's in a great spot. He's going to project really well, even at 8,200. I mean, $200 cheaper than Klubnik, and there's just a little bit more certainty with this Army team. He's got plenty of upside and even a somewhat safe floor because of how much he's utilized in the run game. With the running backs, we don't think Hayden Reed is going to go, so that leaves a lot for Noah Short. He's involved in the passing game as well. When they do throw, he's the team's leading receiver in terms of targets. So Noah Short seems to be in a great spot at $5K. That's a really nice price on him. After that, we might see some Samari Howard. We might see some Carson Smith. Briggs Bartosh is a guy I'd love to see back and healthy because I think he's got a ton of potential, but he hasn't played since the Air Force game. This game starts a few hours at 2.5 hours after the opener. So we're not going to get a ton of news on these games as they're all staggered throughout the afternoon and evening. But some things to love on this Army side. And then Brady Anderson, you're not necessarily playing him for his target share, but when they're not throwing to Short, he's likely the next guy up, and he's got big play potential. You're not playing him for targets. You're playing him for a 70-yard touchdown at 4,100. And it's just he averages 27 yards per reception. So really liking the Army side a lot more than the Connecticut side, but Skylar Bell as a run back isn't a bad option. Georgia Tech versus BYU, maybe the most fun game to watch, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Potential opt-outs on the Ramblin' Wreck side, but it sounds like Haynes King is expected to play, which is pretty big. I know BYU's defense has looked pretty good on paper, but they've given it up a few times this year, especially early in games. That's the one thing though. It's kind of the immovable object versus the unstoppable force. BYU's given it up early in some games. Haynes King has waited until the fourth quarter to get going. I very much remember seeing Haynes King with 10 points a day. I faded him late in the fourth quarter, and he ended up with 31. He hit the bonus on the last drive, scored a touchdown on the last drive that was meaningless. It's tilting, but even at 9K, Haynes King has potential. There's a lot of other quarterbacks who are going to garner attention, though, so this might be a spot where we can get Haynes King at low ownership, too, which is kind of nice. Jamal Haynes is another potential opt-out we're watching, too. I did see he's doing interviews on site at the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but there really hasn't been a clear indication one way or the other. I can tell you he's eaten 2 boxes of Pop-Tarts since they got down there. That's fun. I mean, that honestly makes me like him a lot more. He said he's a cinnamon guy. I don't know if he meant cinnamon Pop-Tarts or brown sugar cinnamon, but either way, both solid options. In terms of DFS, though, we're just going to have to keep an eye on warm-ups, see how active he is. Is he suited up? Is he working out with the first team? And then the wide receiver room, Eric Rivers is expected to play. We're also expecting to see Rutherford and Canyon, but really this wide receiver room hasn't had a ton of upside all year. The Georgia Tech passing game isn't super reliable for DFS. Maybe you luck into a touchdown or a big play, and these guys become a little bit more viable for your lineups. But really, we're just looking at Haynes King here and possibly Jamal Haynes at a discount if we do find out that he's going to give it a go. On the BYU side, Bear Bachmeier is going to go. I do think it's a pretty intriguing matchup. He's got dual threat upside. Georgia Tech's defense is one we've had some success targeting this year. So Bachmeier, even at 8,700, not a bad option. 29, almost 30-point team total. I think that's the highest one on the slate. It certainly is. So BYU, some things to love on this side. One thing we don't love, LJ Martin's not going to play. He's recovering from surgery. Sounds like Sione Moa is going to miss too. He's not on the depth chart. And the other running backs were just flat out not used hardly at all this season. So it does sound like we're going to see a mix of Enoch, Nawahine, Jovesa, Damuni, and Preston Rex. The offensive coordinator says they'll spread the ball out, give usage to all these guys and see who gets the hot hand. But he did specifically bring up wanting to see what Damuni can do and what he brings to the future of the Cougars. So in this matchup against Georgia Tech, we're potentially getting a running back one at min price. Now it probably still will be running back by committee, but if they truly want to see what Damuni can do, I do like the matchup for him. And he's not, I don't mind him for some value on the slate. The wide receiver room appears to be a bit more intact. Chase Robert and Parker Kingston hold upside every time they're on the field, although Roberts is on opt-out watch as well. I'm going to be a broken record with that. JoJo Phillips has the ability to have upside. We just haven't seen it since he's come back midseason. And then Carson Ryan, always certainly capable at the tight end position of finding the end zone a couple of times. And I continue to mention opt-outs and guys that we're going to watch warm-ups for and things like that. Honestly, between the time of this recording and the time the slate locks, the news could flip completely on its head. So that, honestly, that's why it's super important to be part of a community. We got some greasy, sweaty tryhards at Ship It Nation that no matter where the news comes from, whether it's social media or somebody's listening to the pregame show for one of the teams getting ready to play, every ounce of news that we get goes directly into our college football chat. It's incredibly important to pay attention to news during bowl season. It's great to be a part of a community like Ship It Nation if you can be. But really, it does turn into a lot of leverage this time of year. I've actually had a pretty successful bowl season so far because of news like Cortez Bram not playing for Memphis and things like that, that not everybody's necessarily going to see with these earlier games. Now, this is a Saturday, so it's not quite as big of a deal, but those earlier slates on weekdays, definitely some leverage to be had if you're paying attention to news. So super, super important all college football season, but even more so during bowl season. All right. Miami of Ohio at Fresno State versus Fresno State in the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. Ba-da-da-da-da. We got a little Miami, Ohio. Let's see. I'll leave it to him. Stellar halftime show for the Vikings-Lions game, though. If you didn't watch, it's worth going back and watching. It had some guest stars. It was super awesome. And Skull Vikings beat the Lions, knocked them out of the playoffs. I know the Vikings didn't have much to play for, and it hurts their draft position, but I love seeing them knock a division rival out of the playoffs. But this is a college football show. That's too much NFL talk. We'll get right back to the Miami of Ohio Redhawks, the question mark at quarterback. Tommy Gottkowski was given the reins late in the season, but got benched for Henry Hessen. So we're going to have to kind of watch that as they get ready for warmups. Maybe we'll get some news tipping one way or the other. Gottkowski is listed at the top of the depth chart, but there's always a lack of trust in depth chart, and especially Miami's this week. I'll get to that in a moment. We are still expecting Jordan Brunson to start, and I don't hate the matchup against Fresno State. I'd rather attack them on the ground than through the air. The team totals, again, leave a little bit to be desired, but I scrolled through and like you saw, potentially there's not very many super high totals on this slate. So 18 isn't as bad as it would be on, some of those regular season 12 game slates that we see. So I don't hate Jordan Brunson. Deshaunte Jones, though, I'd love to see him get some more run. He did see the second most snaps of the season in the conference championship game, so there's a chance he's got a little bit more DFS upside, especially because I think that boy's going to get some goal line carries. 5'10", 250 pounds. So even if you're not playing him in your lineups, take a chance to watch this Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl and watch Deshaunte Jones play. He's fun. He's a bowling ball, and he's a hard runner. Just a bruiser that I personally love to see. Back to that depth chart, though, one of the reasons I'm not buying into it too much is because it hasn't been updated to show that Cam Perry is out. The Red Hawks top receiver is not going to go on Saturday, so that leaves room for Cole Weaver, who's already seen a steady target share and increased usage in the back half of the season. And it's sub 5K for your wide receiver one. Again, we're seeing that multiple times on this slate, and Cole Weaver fits that mold. Keith Reynolds should be on the field a ton, and we should also see Braylon Isom on the field. and another guy who's gotten increased usage in the back half of the season. Maybe we finally see former Notre Dame standout wide receiver Deion Colsey a little bit more. But I think the biggest bump with no Perry goes to Lionel Billups-Williams. He hasn't had much usage all season, but he's one of those random dark horses. We see him every year during bowl season. He plays the same position as Cam Perry. I know Cam Perry moved around, but Billups-Williams is a min-price wide receiver that if you want to go down there and dig in the trenches for some of these dart throws, these dark horses, Lionel Billups-Williams is certainly on my radar for that. On the Fresno side, we should get EJ Warner at the helm for the Dogs. He just really hasn't been on our DFS radar all season. In this mid-price range, it's a tough click when there's so many studs above him, and there's going to be some cheaper guys. We'll get to one cheap guy in the next game that I really like, and I think everybody's going to really like. But it's just tough. If you think Fresno can outmatch a MAC team, maybe you like him here, but probably GPP only for me. A little bit of a question mark at running back. Rayshawn Luke picked up a Q tag after Fresno's last game. However, there have been some preview articles revolving around him because he's going back to Tucson. He transferred in from Arizona, so he's going back to where he started his college career. And he came up in the Snoop Youth Football League, so playing in the Snoop Dogg Bowl. He's got a lot of ties here. He definitely has some pass catching upside as well, if he's healthy. So that's one thing we're watching. And then the rest of the risk kind of lies within, like with all of these other guys in the running back room. We've seen plenty of Bryson Donaldson, who's the typical starter, as well as Elijah Gilliam, even some Brandon Ramirez. So this running back room does turn into a little bit of a tougher click, even unless you buy into the narratives with Rayshawn Luke, if you think they're going to feed him. Josiah Freeman has been one of the more consistent weapons for this Fresno offense throughout the year, so I don't mind him at 5,700. Everyone else is pretty risky, though. Anderson is a tight end, and Avid is the other wide receiver who we should see on the field a lot. And then Jaleel McClain is a guy whose name we could hear, as well as Jordan Maluolu. Jordan Maluolu. Okay. You can see his name on the screen. He's a min-price wide receiver. And again, just these rotational wide receivers is something that it could be completely random for these bowl games. We've seen guys score touchdowns with their first reception of the season already this bowl season. So don't be surprised if you see somebody not on your screen score a touchdown, or somebody who you would never even consider for your DFS lineups. Just be prepared for it. Not saying you're going to play a random guy who has not logged a reception this year. Just don't be surprised if you see one score a touchdown. All right, we have North Texas and San Diego State in the New Mexico Bowl. Eric Morris, North Texas's coach, headed to Oklahoma State, so a lot of these guys' status is going to be up in the air. Drew Mestemaker is one of those guys on the short list, but he is expected to play. I don't need to say much about him in terms of his talent, his upside. He can chuck that pigskin, and DraftKings jumped the gun, put him at min price as a quarterback when he entered the transfer portal, and now he's expected to play, and he's still 4,500. Now, there's still a chance he doesn't go, but everything I've seen points to him suiting up, and he will likely be chalky because of it. Honestly, just start your lineups there and do whatever you want the rest of the way. But know that you're going to be – well, you know what I will say? People might see Drew Mestemaker at 4,500 and see he's in the transfer portal and ignore him. So maybe he's not going to be 90% owned. There is going to be some variance on that side of things because not everybody watches this show. Not everybody's part of a DFS college football community. So there will be still a portion of the people that fade him just because he's been pricing in the transfer portal. Caleb Hawkins left the conference championship game, and it sounds like he might not be 100% even if he does go. So 9,500, that's a scary click if we're going to get a 70% Caleb Hawkins. Now, I know the talent is certainly there. We've seen the DFS upside all season. Without him, though, Kiefer Sibley got some good run. Freshman Ashton Gray saw a lot of snaps, and he's a big body runner. In the Tulane game, Ashton Gray actually averaged 5.5 yards after contact, which is insane. So I love seeing that out of a running back. Mackenzie McGill would be RB3 if he was healthy. I just don't know that he is. It's not the best matchup, and the Mean Green could just throw the ball all game, but I imagine Sibley and Gray do get a decent number of snaps if Hawkins can't go, and they're both priced around min-price for a running back. In the wide receiver room, Wyatt Young and Miles Coleman both on opt-out watch as well. Young is another guy expected to transfer out. If he goes, he's been one of the best DFS players all season. If he doesn't, you're going to look at these other guys. Cam Dorner is a guy who's in a great spot regardless at sub 5K. but it just turns into an absolute smash if Young and Coleman don't go. Other guys that'll see the field and get increased usage if those guys don't go: Landon Sides, Terrence Lewis. We could also see Trey Williams get some more looks at the tight end position. But we're really watching that Young and Coleman news. I think Dorner's a solid play no matter what. At the SDSU side, we're going to get former Chippewa Bert Emanuel Jr. starting for the Aztecs with no Jaden Denegal. He was a starter for Central Michigan to start the year a couple of seasons ago, and he's big. He's a hard runner. His passing leaves a little bit to be desired. But, I mean, that seems to fit what SDSU wants to do anyway, so maybe he'll get a little bit through the air, but if you play him at 7,200, it's definitely for his legs. Still not sure I'd love it, but if they need to keep pace with this North Texas offense, they're going to have to score a lot of points, and if they do, Bert Emanuel's legs, it wouldn't surprise me if that was part of it. Lucky Sutton, a volume machine, too cheap at 5,700. I mean, unless we get somewhere that he's not going to go or he's going to be limited. And the ground is where you want to target North Texas. Several games over 200 yards allowed, 3 games with more than 300, and even UAB ran for 5.5 yards a carry against them. And if you do need even more savings, but I don't think you do with all the value on the slate, Christian Washington at 4,200 isn't a bad option. He's had a recent uptick in usage, and that's actually a good transition to salary this week. There's so many guys that are underpriced. There's so many guys that are getting bumped up into starter roles that may not necessarily have been starters the entire season. So I don't mind leaving salary on the table. There's going to be players out there in your tournaments, even in some of your cash games, that just want to spend all $50,000 of your salary. But with these guys getting different roles, with bowl games having so much more variance, leave a little bit more salary on the table. Don't be scared of it, I should say. Don't go out thinking you have to leave salary on the table, but also if you find a lineup you like and it tracks with your process and you're only spending 48.3, don't be afraid of that this week with all of the variance and all of the opt-outs and the injuries and the bowl craziness that we see every single year. All right, back to the Aztecs. Donovan Brown. If you're playing anybody from the wide receiver core, it's him. Because Napier's out, but based on how much the Aztecs run, there's really some risk with any of these wide receivers. Although Brown did get 9 targets and a score in their last game. You'd also maybe look at Jalen Hawkins, a true freshman. His stats don't jump out at you, but he saw a huge increase in usage with no Napier. And I say huge because it was 0 before that, but 4 and 6 targets in weeks 13 and 14 with more than 30 offensive snaps in both. I don't hate Jalen Hawkins at min price. If San Diego State can keep pace, though, this North Texas San Diego State game might be the shootout of the slate. So I don't mind targeting this game, especially the North Texas side. If we can get some news early on, it just makes it even better. Virginia, Mizzou, Gator Bowl. Virginia versus Mizzou in the Gator Bowl. Virginia, obviously not too thrilled. They missed out on the CFP with that loss to Duke. We definitely have guys on opt-out watch here too. Chandler Morris would be one of them, although it does sound like he might be getting another year of eligibility. Even if he goes here, it's a tough click at AK. We haven't seen that upside from him in DFS. I mean, he had a couple of games earlier in the season, but in conference play against tough opponents, it just hasn't been there. Same with Jamari Taylor. Not that he – okay, I shouldn't say same with Jamari Taylor. I meant same with Jamari Taylor on price, not the other stuff I said about Morris. But although with some misprices and cheap guys other places on the slate, some that we've already talked about, 8,300 is not going to be that hard to get to if we get where he's going to go, another guy on opt-out watch. And if he doesn't go, Harrison Whaley's been getting a ton of touches lately too at 4,100. Don't hate that, even if Taylor goes and you want a piece of this Who's team. But if Taylor doesn't go, Whaley becomes a stellar play for cheap. Just the matchup that you're worried about here. Trell Harris left the conference championship game early, still uncertain on his status. If he does go, I don't mind him in the mid-price range. If he doesn't, I think you can definitely look at guys like Cam Ross or Jamal Edry. And Eli Wood had the big touchdown against Duke. He could definitely be a cheap guy who will be on the field if we don't get Trell Harris. So some, again, just more cheap pieces on this Virginia wide receiver core. On the Mizzou side, Drink said he doesn't expect any opt-outs here beyond what we already know. So we should have a pretty good idea of who's going to see the field. Bo Pribula's gone. Matt Zoller is expected to get the start. I'm still not sure we love him, even at this cheap price, based on what we've seen, but a glimmer of hope. Virginia's likely going to be without one of its, or if not their best cover corner, and also a big name safety, one of its better edge rushers. So maybe a slight glimmer for Matt Zollers here. And then one thing I can say about when Zollers played in the regular season, Ahmad Hardy feasted, including a 25-carry, 298-yard game with 3 scores. Overall, in the 3 games Zollers started or played a bunch, Hardy averaged about 19 carries, 168 yards, and more than a touchdown. So we know Hardy's a good runner. What we don't know is how much he's going to play in this game. Based on what Drink said, I would assume most, if not all, of his typical usage. But then Roberts also has some upside, especially if his decides they're just going to run the ball. We could see both of these guys get 15 to 20 carries, and it wouldn't shock me. The wide receiver room, we already have some answers. Josh Manning and Marquise Johnson are not playing. Coleman still expected to play in the slot, and he's 4,900. Obviously, we know his upside if you paid attention to DFS or Missouri football all year. Donovan Oligbody has some solid games this year, and it should be one of the wide out spots for Missouri starting at 3,700. Another great option. It's just a matter of if the quarterback can get him the ball. And then the big question mark is who's going to start at the other wide out. Xavier Lloyd and Logan Muckey could see some reps there in their last college game, but the Mizzou camp is really high on Demarion Fawkes. He's only played 26 offensive snaps this season, but he does have one rushing attempt. All right, there's his stats. And he's logged 2 routes. But the freshman has been involved in the return game, and he did have a 55-yard punt return against A&M. So if you're looking for another one of those extreme punt dark horses, maybe Fawkes makes your list just because of how they've been talking to him down Columbia way. LSU at Houston, the last game on the slate, the Texas Bowl, looks like a slow, sloggy game on paper, but it is indoors. And all right, LSU, how many times are we going to hear about Lane Kiffin during the game? It's a standalone game in prime time. Maybe turn it into a drinking game late Saturday night if you're all about that life. We're going to stick with Michael Van Buren here, who hasn't really shown much of a ceiling since he took over. Houston's pass D has been pretty good against mid teams, and I would say LSU is a mid team. So at 7,500, it just seems like there's a lot of other plays on the slate I like more. But LSU is an SEC team, and SEC teams can shoot out. Houston's a Big 12 team, and Big 12 teams can shoot out. So, would not be surprised to see this game hit the over. Although one thing, something I should mention too, there have been a lot of first half unders that have hit. Now there's a few one-offs and, recency bias from the Cal-Hawaii game, which didn't hit the under, kind of shifts the mindset a little bit, but a ton of first half unders have been hitting. And I think that's just because there's a new mixture of guys playing with each other on the field. They haven't quite found their groove. So if you're about that betting life, first half unders, and once halftime hits, live bet the over for the entire game or for the second half, there's been quite a bit of success in that in this bowl season. Although it has been, a lot of G5 teams playing, not as many P4, but, still something to look at. The running backs for LSU, Harlan Berry and Caden Durham have been splitting carries in the back half of the season, but Berry's just been better, which also isn't saying much because LSU's run game hasn't been great. And again, not the greatest matchup here, especially since as it sits right now, Houston's defense is pretty much intact. But maybe you could get some value in these pass catchers. Aaron Anderson's status is technically still in the air, but I guess he doesn't go leaning the same way for Nick Anderson, which means Xavier Thomas, who's shown some flashes without the Andersons and can get involved in the running game a little bit too. He's in a good spot. I thought Trey'Dez Green was going to be the next big thing for LSU, and he still does have some spike potential. Maybe I don't know if I want to say the most upside for these LSU pass catchers, but he's definitely shown more in the games he played, but he's also shown a pretty low floor. So that's kind of where the risk lies. You might get 3, you might get 30. And then Barry and Brown has been consistent, just not consistently good necessarily for DFS with just 1 touchdown all year. But if he holds his target share and ends up finding the end zone, that could be a solid play too. On the Houston side, Connor Wegman says he's coming back to Houston for his final season. Got to imagine he's going to give it a go here. LSU's defense has actually been okay in this game environment. You're asking a lot from Wegman at 8,500, but indoors, no elements. A guy who's a dual threat. He's shown the ability to run the ball. 8,500 expensive, but again, that might just keep his ownership down on the slate with all the value. Not difficult to get to. Dean Connors is one of the guys on opt-out watch for Houston. If he goes, he should get a majority of the work, and he is very involved in the pass game too. Although DJ Butler has been eating into Connors' touches quite a bit as of late, and at 4,100, I don't mind Butler with the way bowl season has gone so far, especially if Connors doesn't go though. And then the wide receivers are as they have been. Amari Thomas is a stud, huge upside every time he steps on the field, no matter who the opponent is. Tanner Koziel, sure-handed tight end, who's basically going to get the targets that don't go to Thomas or Connors, but we do have Koziel on opt-out watch too. And because it's bowl season, Kobe Young, Harvey Broussard, I mean, these guys could definitely score a touchdown or be more involved. We just haven't seen it yet, so it's not something that we can project or recommend playing, but again, there's so many MME plays on this slate because these guys that have seen 10 routes run all year, 15 offensive snaps, or getting their first target in a bowl game for the season end up scoring a touchdown or getting 3 catches and 50 yards and a score. So much randomness, but that makes it good for GPP. And I don't know if you can hear the background noise. We are hosting holidays this year, and maybe somebody just won an intense game of cribbage. But hopefully that wasn't too much of a bother. Hopefully my mumbo jumbo made sense to you. That's kind of what bowl game season is for college football DFS. It's a lot of mumbo jumbo, but again, pay attention to news, be on Twitter, listen to pregame shows, now is a good time to get into a community if you want to play bowl season. And we got 5 days for $19. Again, you can get in on Friday before the bowl games start, or even get in on Saturday. And I think that will probably carry you to most of our college football playoff quarterfinals content as well. So definitely a lot of reasons to get in now. And plus we got the NFL late season, getting into the NFL playoffs pretty soon. There's so much to love about, joining a community, especially Ship It Nation right now. But even in bowl season, we are going to end the show the same way we have all year with the big guys. Rule number 1, college football is fun. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the sweat. Enjoy watching college football on your TVs. It's bowl season, but we still have college football to watch. There's still some CFP games coming. And enjoy the fact that we get to play college football DFS. But most importantly, never take a single day for granted. We do not know how many we have left. It's never enough. And we don't know which one's going to be our last. But that's going to do it for our 12/27 bowl game breakdown here at Ship It Nation. I will see you in the streets this weekend. Let's go out there and ship one for the big guy.